If you want to have a career within data, you should absolutely learn SQL. And not because it replaces tools like Excel or Power BI or Python, even, but it actually works right alongside them. You can absolutely have a career in data only working in Excel. You can absolutely have a career within data only working with data visualization. Those tools and those skills are very powerful, even in isolation. But when you add SQL to your toolbox, you naturally become more efficient. And in turn of becoming more efficient, you naturally become more competitive. Because inside companies, the data does not just live within the dashboards or the Excel spreadsheets. That data is stored somewhere. And in order for you to retrieve that data, join that data, filter that data at its source, you need to understand SQL. And when you look at the data regarding the most prevalent skills across job descriptions within the space of data, SQL is up there. It's to me what I would consider like a non negotiable if you are trying to get like super far within the space of data. Like I said, you can survive with the other tools, but if you want to get like super far, you got to know SQL. And not because it replaces those other tools, but it essentially connects those other tools. And as someone that is still very much so active within the space of data, I see this every day. Let's say you have a report and the data looks off or there's a disconnect with what the business expected. As an analytic professional, it's your job to do that data investigation. And one of the first steps of data investigation is to go to the source. The source is going to be driven by SQL. And if someone only knows Excel, if someone only knows Power BI, they're only limited to the data that someone else gives to them. That's actually how I started. I started out in Excel. I say this all the time. And I was limited by the data that was actually provided to me. That's exactly why I created SQL Essentials, because it allows for someone that has the goal of deepening their data expertise to know how to work with data at its source. And in SQL Essentials, we work on things like writing queries to pull data, data cleansing, data investigation, learning how to think like an analytic professional. Because, like I say all the time, yes, you have to know the skills, you have to know how to write your code, but we are not just tool users in this space. So in this program, we actually uncover the things that you need to be successful within the space of data. And like I stated earlier, the tools don't replace each other. They essentially work in parallel. And naturally, when you add SQL to your toolbox or your workflow, you're exposed to bigger data sets because SQL has the ability to work with massive amounts of data, especially when you compare it to other data tools. So the goal of SQL is not to replace those other data tools. They're essentially there to make your data tools more efficient because they allow you to understand data at its source. So bye y'all. Hope this helps.